And she said, just as long as I picked her up and drove her over there, that I can meet him.
My next guest is in an age of refinement. He is a cowboy from New Jersey, known as the one and only New Jersey cowboy. I'd like to welcome Stetson to the Tristen Law Show. Steven, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Tristan? How have you been?
Man, I've been really good. I have not seen you in person in quite some time. I think the last time I saw you, it was at an East Coast Pro Wrestling show. Backstage, you didn't work that show. So what the hell have you been up to since?
Well, ever since I appeared on AEW, I've been kind of taking it slow, kind of focusing on me, myself, and trying to make sure that I could put out the best possible product for myself. I wanted to get into better shape. I wanted to get my mental health a little bit straighter. And I've been wrestling shows. I've been doing, early on, I did Invictus. More recently, I'm consistent with Northeast Wrestling, World of Hurt Wrestling, which I'll be at this Friday, tagging with Fancy Ryan Clancy against the administration. Just keep myself busy doing what I got to do. I actually flew down to Orlando to do some WWE extra work pretty recently.
Nice.
I got used for a little security spot. It was honestly really cool just to see how everybody operates, and I'm very, very glad that I got that opportunity.
So what is it like being backstage at a WWE event as an extra?
It's pretty cool. I mean, to be honest, I kind of just sat to the side quietly, just waiting for them. If they needed me, they could come up. Obviously, they would come up to me and say, hey, we might need you for this. We might need you for that. You never know what might need you for. So it's always good if you're right there at the ready, just to be prepared. And you got to be prepared for everything they throw at you. Sorry.
So what are some of the crazy things that you think that they would throw at you? Would it be something like, hey, we need you for this, and then 5 seconds later, they don't need you, and then 20 seconds later, they need you for something else, but some people not in your mindset would walk away and miss the opportunity?
Oh, no, you just got to be around it. You got to be able to be prepared, do everything that you can just to make sure you're on top of everything. Because 1 second you walk away, they're going to go to the person right next to you, and they're going to say, yes, I can do whatever you need.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question, right? Because I've talked to a lot of people that have done extra work for WWE, all right? And I've talked to a small amount of people that's done extra work for AEW. Mm-hmm. WWE has pretty good catering backstage, but I heard that AEW has pretty solid catering backstage as well, too. Who has the best catering?
It's kind of a tough one. I think that they were pretty even, you know? I really, really like WWE's catering, and AEW's catering was pretty top-notch itself. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, just got to say it's pretty even. I couldn't defer which one was better, which one was worse, you know?
I want to know, when was the first time you fell in love with pro wrestling?
Well, when I was a kid, I remember watching people like Eddie Guerrero and John Cena growing up, and I was always like such a big fan of pro wrestling growing up because it was one of those places where like my little childhood mind could escape. But then as I started growing up, I didn't watch it for a while. And in 2011, it's weird because I know exactly when I got hooked right back into wrestling. It was 2011, the day after Capital Punishment, where CM Punk distracted John Cena, and John Cena got put through the table, and that pipe bomb promo happened. And I literally paused. I'm like, wait, that's John Cena. Who's that guy? Oh, Jesus, wow. And I heard everything that he was saying, and I'm like, I'm hooked now. I want to see this. I want to see more of this, and I just never stopped.
And that took place June 19th, 2011, if I'm not mistaken, in Washington, D.C.?
Yep.
What is it that made you decided that you wanted to lace up a pair of wrestling boots? Because you've only been wrestling since 2018, if I'm not mistaken?
I started my training in 2017. I had my first match early 2018, yeah.
So what made you want to put on a pair of boots?
To be honest, I was kind of at a weird place in my life. I wasn't enjoying myself in my academics, my studies and everything. I didn't feel fully involved. And I don't know, when I was a kid, I always had that thought that, hey, maybe I could be at WrestleMania holding up the WWE Championship, you know? But, like, I never really put it to place. And like I said, I was at a low place in my life. I didn't know where to go. I said, you know what? Why don't we try professional wrestling? And I looked into a few schools. ECPW is where I got my start, as you know, because you were there with me, like every single Saturday, every single Thursday, teaching me psychology with the Lion King.
Yep.
I still tell people that's how I learned my psychology before I eventually went over to Damian Adams, where he helped me cross my T's, dot my I's with everything, you know.
Right, just to help you make everything make a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find ECPW? Out of all the schools in the world, how did you find them?
I just Googled it. IWF came up first, so I drove to Nutley, where they used to take place. They ended up turning into a gym. So I just Googled it again. I found ECPW. I'm like, all right, let's go. So I drove from Nutley to Parsippany and talked to Gino. The rest was history.
So you did this all in one day?
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I was thinking about it for a while. I'm not going to lie. I was actually thinking about it really early on in 2017. I'm like, maybe I should give this a shot, because like I was in school, I was bored, and I'm not the most attentive student in the world. I could fully admit that. I'm not ashamed of it. But yeah, I kept looking up wrestling schools, and then one day in October, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to figure it out, because I hated school. I hated learning things that I felt like I wasn't grasping. And as soon as I took that first bump in wrestling, I fell in love, and everything just like came to me. I felt like I was a sponge. I was soaking up all the information that I could.
So when you premeditated going to pro wrestling school, how did you prepare for pro wrestling school, if you did prepare?
I did not prepare. I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't prepare. I probably should have prepared, but I didn't.
You know, hindsight is 20/20. So if you could go back to when you were mentally thinking about preparing for pro wrestling school, what do you think you could have done to properly prepare better, knowing what you know now?
I would have started getting into better shape then, because my first day at pro wrestling, I was 315 pounds. I was a big, heavy dude, and I kind of wish that I worked out a little bit more than I did back then, because I was just eating, letting everything get to me, and I didn't really join a gym until like 4 or 5 months after I started wrestling. So I wish I made that change a little bit quicker, but especially this year too. This year at the start of this year, I was 250, 260 pounds, and I got down to 190 pounds by September, October, around there. Yeah. And I kind of kept that for a little while, and I felt good about it, but I'm starting to go into the bulking season. So
nice.
Yeah. I'm starting to add on a little bit of muscle weight. I feel good about myself, and I'm happy looking in the mirror at myself now. So that's more than I could ever ask for.
I would definitely say I am happy with what I see that you're doing, because obviously, like you said, I was there when you were there in the beginning, and you know, you've made a transformation. You know, you've come a long way from being that kid in the wrestling school, and I'm just showing you, you know, how to bump, and you know, psychology and all those other things, you know, and I'm glad that you went on to someplace else where they could stack on top of that and make you the performer that you are now. But what were some of the aha moments that you had in pro wrestling school? Aha, meaning like you grabbed the concept and said, yeah, I got this, and you moved forward.
Once you kind of simplified wrestling psychology to the Lion King for me, you asked me what my favorite movie was, and I don't watch a lot of movies, but like I've watched The Lion King constantly. So I guess that would be my favorite. So that's what I said. And once you started putting it together, like the shine is where Simba gets held up.
Yep.
The cutoff is where, boom, he's dead. You know,
right.
I started putting the pieces there together. But another aha moment is, I think maybe a few months into training at Damian Adams, I figured out how to tell a story with different body parts and telling that kind of psychology. So, and there's many different ways you could go about it. And once I started to figure out how to put everything like that together, things were just coming to me. I was like, oh, Jesus. Sometimes I'm just sitting in my house and I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. And I just get it.
So it's crazy. It's maniacal, because I do the same exact thing as well too. I'm driving and I'm like, Like, I'm going to start thinking about spots and different ways that I can do things in the wrestling ring, different ways I can say things and walk out and stand and pose. People don't understand how maniacal and crazy that we are, because these are things that go into, you know, putting together a wrestling match. We're perfecting our persona. We're perfecting who we are. It's an ongoing evolution, and I feel like the evolution never stops. Like, you know, I sat in front of a guy the other day, and he asked me, hey, you know, so do you think you know everything when it comes to Photoshop and Audition and Premiere? I said, I feel that I'm pretty strong in those 3 programs. However, I don't want to say I know everything, because A, everybody hates a know-it-all, number one. But 2, the second thing is that I always feel like I'm a student. No matter what I'm in, I always feel like I'm a student. Like, there's always opportunities for me to learn. So, you know, it's always an ongoing thought for how we can do it better. And I think you're definitely on the right track, and you definitely have the right mindset. So when you look back at your first match, I want to know, when was it, where it was, and who was it against?
My first ever match, it was at the ECPW training center for BBWF against Prince Akhenaten. And it was a short match. It was only like maybe 2-3 minutes most. But yeah, it was pretty quick. It wasn't anything too special. And then my first match in front of a crowd, I don't remember what date it was, but I know it was against Trey Felipe.
Knowing all the knowledge you got now again, right?
Yep.
What would you go back and tell yourself? You weren't Steve Stetson at the time. You were Big Cal Stevens. So what would you go back and what would Steven Stetson tell Big Cal Stevens right before he came out for those matches?
I would tell him, just don't be nervous. You'll figure it out along the way.
I think that's pretty solid advice.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's nervous before they go out for their first match. I was nervous for the taping. I was nervous for the first match in front of a live crowd. And I don't know, like, the anxiety gets to you, you know? So, like, if I could go back in time, I would just, you know what, you'll be fine. Just keep focused, keep working, do whatever you got to do, and make sure you keep your head high. That's probably what I would tell myself.
Like, till this day, I still get nervous. I swear, 100%. I still get nervous. Like,
you don't get nervous, you shouldn't be in it.
You're right. That means I don't care. You know,
Yeah.
I'm standing right, getting ready to come out, waiting for the music to play. I'm already in the mindset, and all of a sudden, the nerves just come over me, and I'm like, oh my God. And then the second I walk through the curtain, the nerves, like, I forget the nerves, like I leave them behind the curtain.
The thing is, too, you got to be able to lighten the mood sometimes. So if you're in a locker room with a few guys that you travel with regularly, you can always crack a few jokes with them right before you go out, because that definitely eases attention a lot. Like, I feel more relaxed when I do that. And that's definitely been calming me down more recently.
Hey, I mean, I'm sure people could use that inside and outside of pro wrestling. But talking about you going to Damian Adams, you mentioned that earlier. You are currently underneath the wing of Damian Adams. And he's trained with the WWE. He's been a guest coach at the Performance Center. And he's also trained the likes of Deonna Purrazzo. What made you join Damian Adams' school?
Some people were recommending me to check it out, and I sent him a message. He didn't read it right away, but I had a friend who trained there, and she said just as long as I picked her up and drove her over there that I can meet him. So that's what I did. And it was probably like one of the shortest conversations I've ever had with Damian, where like we talked for a second. He was explaining what the training regimen was, and he looked at me. He's like, all right, you ready to go in there? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And ever since then, I never looked back. I feel like Damian has like the most knowledge out of any person I've ever met. And the thing is, sometimes he's not a wrestling coach. Sometimes he's a confidence coach. He wants to boost your confidence to the maximum, because he trained Deonna Purrazzo. He also trains Karen Q, Tasha Steeles, Elektra Lopez, who's on NXT right now. And he's training people like Megan Bain, Ray Jazz, Antonio Zambrano, and an up-and-comer, Fancy Ryan Clancy. So we got a lot of people in our building who give it like a safe space, and we're always learning with each other. We always bring each other up, and Damian definitely helps all of us out with that.
So what is the training like at Damian Adams' school, academy?
Ooh, he puts us through the ringer. In a good way, though, because like it's a lot of mental toughness with it. You start off with your basic roles. You do all the roles you can. Shuffles around the ring. we do 1,000 Hindu squats, and we train 3-4 days a week, and some people train 5 days a week. Yeah, 1,000 Hindu squats, grape crushers in the corner. Sometimes we'll do 20, 30, 40, 50 pin drills. Everything's on the fly there too. We'll do matches on the fly. We'll do heat drills on the fly. We'll do a lot, and we end it with we usually end it with promo segments, and Damien loves to talk, so he wants to hear more of us talking too sometimes. So like he'll tell us to keep doing promos over and over again, and sometimes we don't leave there until like 2, 3 in the morning. I've had a few nights like that, but
you know why Damien Adams' training regimen is so tough?
why do you think?
Because when you go out there, you're using his name, and he wants to look good. So I think he's definitely doing a great job, you know, because he doesn't want to say that, oh, you know, that Steve Stetson guy is running around using my name, saying that he trained me, and, you know, he was, you know, so like I've been watching some of your recent matches, and I think that, you know, that Damien Adams is proud that you're out there using his name. You know, that when somebody listens to and watches this podcast, the Tristen Law Show, they're going to look for you on YouTube or look for your AEW matches, and they're going to be able to say, oh, wow, the guy's good, and he's not. And it's also good marketing and advertisement for Damien Adams, because if you're going out there making him look great, somebody else could come in and try to replicate that for themselves as well, too. So that's pretty good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So on February 16th, 2021, that day may not mean anything to you, but it means a lot to me. I'll tell you why. At 11:28 p.m., you sent me a message on Instagram that said, and I'm going to read it. It said, hey, man, I just want to say thank you for everything you did for me when I started. That being said, I got booked as an extra on AEW, and I'll be on AEW Dark. I want to keep this on the low, but I figured I'd tell you since you helped me so much at the start. Steven, you will never understand how much that simple message meant to me and how proud I was that you got that opportunity. You see, for me, I know the reason why I never got that big opportunity was because I had zero confidence in myself. I'm sure I could have gotten an opportunity. I had zero confidence. And one of the things I always told you and everybody else that I was working with and helping, right? Because I don't like to say I trained anybody. I helped people, right? I always said, hey, go get a job. Because I didn't have any confidence to go get a job. You go get a job so you don't have to work 50 hours at Walmart as a manager, right? So it's now in the atmosphere. You now know that simple message to you was like saying, hey, I'm going to be on AEW, thanks for everything. To me, I felt like shit, like my kid. I took my kid, and my kid went through college and he graduated. I appreciate that message. Tell us the process from start to finish of how you got booked for AEW Dark.
Well, I was at work one day, and my trainer texted me and Antonio, and he said, hey, you guys are going to be booked on AEW next week. So we were scrambling for a flight, and that's when the big storm was coming in. So we had to do a few flight adjustments, but eventually we both got there. We both got down. We got matches, and everything was all picture perfect. I'm very happy that I got to spend the time down in AEW, and hopefully I'll be able to spend more time with them in the future. You never know what's going to happen.
What was it? Did you have to jump through any hoops? What was it like when you got off the plane? You know, paint us the picture. Tell us what it was like.
No, I didn't really have to jump through too many hoops, in all honesty. Just got off we got there the day before. So got there, just settled in, made sure everything was good. And the next day we just went to the arena. We were told what to do. We did what we needed and told we had matches. So we prepared and everything was good.
Do you feel that you were prepared for that opportunity with AEW?
I feel like I was, but at the same time, you can never be like, you always got to over prepare, you know? So like in a way, when I was going down there, I wasn't sure if I was fully prepared, but then once I got there, I kept thinking to myself, you got this, you got this, you got this. And once the matches were done and over, I took a deep breath and I'm like, whew, okay, now what's next? You know, I'm always looking forward to the next step and hopefully that'll come soon.
So if anybody's looking to watch that match, it took place on AEW Dark, the February 23rd, 2021 episode. You got to work Top Flight. So what was going through your mind when you and your partner, Tony Vega, who we both know, walked out the tunnel and down the ramp to the ring?
My head was kind of in the cloud because I kept thinking, wow, this is actually like really happening. I better make sure I'm on my A game, you know? And the match happened. I wasn't really thinking much once I got into the match, but yeah, walking down the apron, I'm like, ooh, this is kind of crazy. And we were doing it during the COVID times too. So there wasn't anybody in the arena. I think Billy Gunn's kids and Tesha Price were the only people that were in the crowd. But other than that, there wasn't really anybody else there other than like producers and guys behind the cameras and everything. But yeah, it was definitely really, really cool, but obviously really weird not wrestling in front of fans. But I'm glad I got that opportunity still.
So I remember being asked in the early part of the pandemic, hey, is it weird that people are out there wrestling when there's no fans present? I told them not really, because 100% of your first matches that you do when you're in wrestling school are in front of no fans. Mm-hmm. So it's like almost like second nature. You don't have that thousands of people or hundreds of people screaming for you or screaming at you, but you still have worked matches in front of people. Sometimes you've probably worked a match where nobody was standing on the outside.
Yeah.
Aside from Taz mentioning that, you probably wore too much cologne, right? I don't know how true that is. Not. But what feedback did you get after the match?
I got really good feedback. Christopher Daniels definitely gave me a few pointers that I definitely took going forward. And even coming back too, after that, I got pointers from people that were in Ring of Honor, like Matt Taven and Vincent. I got pointers from them. Just telling me to keep doing what I'm doing, make sure I'm on top of myself, I can't give away all the secrets, but at the same time, I just got to keep going.
Is there anything that you would have done differently?
No, I don't think so. I think I would have kept it the same because, I don't know, that's just how I experienced it. I want that experience to be like remembered for what it was. And I'm very, very glad that I got to experience it. I'll cherish it forever.
If AEW, WWE, or any pro wrestling promotion that can monetarily change your quality of life is listening, why are you the best person to be added to their roster?
Why am I the best person to be added to their roster? I'm one of a kind. I'm the one and only New Jersey Cowboy. Do you know that? How many New Jersey Cowboys do you know?
None.
Come from a legendary family. Did you know the very first cowboy hat was made in West Orange, New Jersey in 1865 by John B. Stetson himself?
Wait, that's probably like your great-great-great-great-great-grandpappy, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh. I'm the real legend in New Jersey here, and I make sure to wear that proud.
What's next for Steven Stetson?
I'll be wrestling this Friday at World of Hurt. I'll be tagging with Fancy Ryan Clancy against the administration in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, 27 Union Street. It's the Pittsfield Elk Lodge.
Steven, I want to thank you for your time. It was great for this little catch-up that we had here, and everybody got to see our catch-up and us talk, and you explain the process and talk about where you came from and where you are now. But tell everyone how they can find you outside of the Tristen Law Show.
You can find me on social media, Instagram, Twitter. I don't have a wrestling Facebook, but I should make one. Usernames are the same, Steven_Stetson_. It'll be all right there.
Awesome. Well, Steven, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And I look forward to seeing what you bring in the future. I don't think you and I ever had a match together, but I think we need to get in the ring and beat the hell out of each other one time.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. And everybody, this is Steven Stetson. He is the one and only New Jersey Cowboy.